If you're not a strong applicant, you shouldn't be applying.
Oh hell no!
Let's talk about this. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Antonia and I make videos about medicine, medical school, my life and some commentary in there as well. So if that sounds good to you, feel free to subscribe, like this video and keep watching. If you don't have the pleasure of being on med Twitter or on the medic side of Instagram, then you may not have known in the last couple of weeks, a research paper published last year has been kind of brought to the forefront and sparked a lot of conversation. This paper was led by 3 male doctors who aimed to look into professionalism and professional behaviours on social media platforms from other surgeons in their chosen specialty, and highlighted a list of potentially inappropriate behaviours and clearly inappropriate behaviours with regards to professionalism. A lot of people didn't really find issue with the clearly unprofessional behaviours, but it was the potentially unprofessional behaviours that was a little bit more controversial, to say the least. It sparked some really interesting debates surrounding the idea of professionalism in the medical field from medical professionals. I really want to make a video about this separately, so hopefully I'll make that most likely after my exams because I do need to revise. But that's not actually what I wanted to talk about in this video. I wanted to talk about that statement that I read at the start. As I mentioned, this situation and this paper being brought to the forefront really sparked some interesting conversation and a lot of debate. The biggest one being the #MedBikini hashtag that went around on Twitter and Instagram, where doctors were posting pictures of themselves in bikinis on holiday to prove that this is not an inherently unprofessional behaviour, as posing in swimwear, particularly bikinis, was highlighted by the paper as being potentially inappropriate. But the debate that was going around has led to a lot of medical students and a lot of doctors talking about things that are professional to wear to interview, and this is where this statement comes in. I was scrolling through my Instagram looking at a medical influencer. This particular person is an incoming first-year medical student over in the States. They were having a chat with their followers via their story about what is and isn't appropriate to wear to a medical school interview, which I thought was really interesting. Lots of interesting points were brought up about hair, jewellery, clothing, that sort of thing. When asking their followers for their thoughts, someone decided to contribute that if somebody knows that they're not a stronger candidate, that maybe they wouldn't want to push the boat out, to play it really safe with what they wear and how they acted at an interview. And this influencer decided to respond with, if you're not a strong applicant, you shouldn't be applying. And I wasn't actually going to make this video. I was just going to feel annoyed for a bit and move on. I think I must have seen that story on Friday of last week. Today is Tuesday that I'm filming this. Every single day it's just been at the back of my mind bugging me because this is bad advice in my opinion, and I just kind of wanted to talk about it because there are people who may have seen that story and may think that that is exactly the be all and end all. I just want to highlight there that it really isn't the advice you should be taking if you're looking to apply to anything, to be perfectly honest. And I'll get into why. I split this video into 3 points just so that I'm not rambling on and I can actually collect my thoughts. The first point is, what is a strong applicant? Now I'm going to take this particular video from a medical school admissions point of view because this person is a medical student advising other medical students and I'm a medical student, so it's what I know best. But you can actually apply this to any field where you need to apply for anything, any uni course, because it's all quite translatable. To apply to medical school, you need to submit a bunch of data to the medical schools you want to apply to. Just like if you want to apply anywhere else for a job or any other uni course, you have to do the same. The data that you give is split between the quantitative data that you would have been working towards for months or years. Med schools love an admissions test. In the UK we have 3, the UCAT, BMAT, GAMSAT. I know the Americans have the MCAT, and I'm sure that everywhere has their different tests that you're supposed to take before you get into medical school. And on top of that, you'll have grades as well. So your GPA, A-levels, GCSEs, you need classification if you're applying after doing a degree already, that sort of thing. But then you also have your qualitative data, your personal statement, your work experience, all those things that you can't quite put into discrete values and things. You just have to reflect on and show that you've really considered why you want to join this field. But how do you know that you're a good candidate? You can look through all of the historical data of people who've applied to medical schools that you want to apply to, which I would recommend doing because it's a good reference point sometimes. You can trawl through all the forums that you want to. You can go to the student room, College Confidential, anywhere else where people are talking about their stats and things, and you can try and compare yourself stats wise to everybody else. But at the end of the day, that's just guesswork. You will never really know how strong an applicant you are because you don't know everybody else who's applying to your chosen institution. So this idea of a strong and weak applicant Now, if you want to say about meeting grade requirements or meeting minimum requirements, that's completely different. Meeting the minimum requirements doesn't make you a strong candidate. It just makes you a feasible candidate. So this whole idea of strong and weak doesn't really play very well with me. And it's kind of annoying because it's that typical forum talk that makes everybody really anxious. The student room, oh, I've got all A stars and my UCAT is 900 out of 900 average and blah, 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 blah. It's that typical fear-mongering talk that I feel like this statement comes out of, and it's just not conducive. Editing Antonia here. I just thought I'd quickly clarify my point. It's not that people who get good grades and post these good grades on forums are bad people. That's not it at all. It's people who use getting good grades and getting into a certain course or job, etc., as the way to gatekeep and to tell people that, oh, you will have no chance of getting in because you don't have XYZ grades, even though the grades that they are saying that they have meet the minimum requirements. At the end of the day, you could get the best grades, have the best application in your opinion, and you can still get rejected. That's the unfortunate truth of applying to things. So this whole idea of having the best and perfect application doesn't really work, because you never know what exactly an admissions panel are actually looking for. You will never know unless you contact every single applicant that is applying to all of the medical schools that you want to apply to, or any other institution you're applying to. You will never know how strong you are. And which leads nicely onto my second point, which is you'll never know until you try. At the end of the day, because you don't know the stats that everybody is coming into this application cycle with, the best thing you can really do is just try. Maybe your admissions test didn't go very well this year and you fall a bit lower than average for everyone taking that admissions test for the cycle. If you apply to an institution where people who took the same admissions test as you have actually scored lower than you, then you are a stronger applicant. But again, you won't know because you don't know who's going to apply. And if you assume that you are a weak candidate and you don't go for it, then you could be missing out on opportunities that could have actually quite easily come to you. And that's not even taking into account the qualitative data that you give in. The fact that you give in a personal statement and you actually give yourself an opportunity to represent yourself and show off the best parts of you is really important, and I don't think it's easily quantifiable or comparable with anybody else. Somebody can do 2 months of work experience and another person could do 2 weeks, but if the person who did 2 weeks reflects on it well and actually can demonstrate through those 2 weeks that they are suited for that field, then they could beat out the person with 2 months work experience easily. But if the person with 2 weeks thinks that their 2 weeks of work experience aren't good enough and aren't strong enough, then they may not end up applying and missing out again on an opportunity that would have come to them anyway. You'll genuinely never know until you try. I am a massive fan of applying strategically. I've said it in previous videos and I'll defend it till I die. Honestly, I think applying strategically is a very smart thing to do, but at the end of the day, applying strategically doesn't have to mean that you're counting yourself as a weaker candidate. When applying to universities, a lot of people give out the advice that you should apply to places that you think you should definitely get into, places that maybe it's a bit of a reach to get into, and then you have your safety schools as well. There's a chance of you getting into all of those institutions. I have definitely been surprised with my application of places I've gotten into. I know other people have as well. Even when you're applying strategically, you're trying to be smart with your applications to maximize your number of offers. It's all still guesswork. You're basing it off previous cycles and anything can change in this cycle. The caliber of students could change and does change from cycle to cycle. So you will never really know until you try, which is an even bigger reason why you shouldn't let anybody else dissuade you from applying to a place that you want to apply to. And that leads on to my final and probably most important point in this video. No one should be dictating to you where you should and shouldn't apply. Of course, you'll take advice from people and stuff, but at the end of the day, that shouldn't be the final deciding factor of whether you should or shouldn't apply to a place. In a grade sense, the only place that you really shouldn't be applying to, in my opinion, are places where you don't meet the minimum requirements. Because if you don't meet those requirements, the likelihood of you getting in, very low. This part is really frustrating to me because as a person in a position to give advice to people and help people, I feel like the last thing that you should do in that position is dissuade people from reaching their goals. Instead, you should be trying to uplift that person as much as possible. Obviously keeping it realistic, but that doesn't mean that you can't still give people confidence and empower them to be able to go for their goals. Let's take out the fact that this person giving this advice was an influencer. If you're in a position to help people and you actively choose to help people, why would you sow seeds of doubt during the application cycle? Why would you give people any more reason to doubt their own ability than they may already have. Add in the fact that this person is an influencer and has a following and people looking up to them actually actively seeking out their advice, it becomes even worse because now thousands and thousands of people are reading that advice, and there will be a certain sector of those people who will just take it at face value, allow it to feed their doubts about their application, and then maybe even not apply to medical school, which is just counterproductive. If that is you and you feel like this kind of advice, or you've heard this kind of advice before and you think that's a reason that you should not apply, I'm here to tell you today that that is not a reason not to apply. At the end of the day, if you have a course that you want to study, say it's medicine, law, dentistry, English, maths, economics, whatever it is, or a career or job that you want to go into, nothing and no one should stop you from attempting to reach that goal. If you apply, you may get in, you may get rejected, which sucks. But it may just be a bit of a redirection. We all make plans, but life happens around us. Your path into that particular career or area of study may be a bit more convoluted. Mine definitely was, but I'm still here. I'm still in medical school, surviving just about. Just because the path looks a bit more complicated or there's fear and doubt doesn't mean that you shouldn't go for something that you really want to go for. And you should never ever let anybody tell you that you shouldn't go for your dreams. If you don't meet the grade requirements now, try and find a way to meet those grade requirements, but never ever ever let anybody tell you that your dreams are not worth chasing. And don't let anyone ever tell you just because you're not the strongest applicant that you shouldn't be applying to what you want to apply to, because that's insane. If you meet those minimum requirements, apply and see what happens. But yes, that brings me to the end of my video. I just kind of wanted to have a bit of a ramble and a rant, and like I said, I have literally not been able to get that statement out of my head because I just think it's so counterproductive and just not what you should be hearing from anyone, especially someone who is a role model. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe and click the notification bell as well, because I know that the sub boxes don't always work, and I know that some people don't even know that I've uploaded videos until like 3 or 4 videos later. So hit the notification bell, feel free to follow me on my Insta, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.